The fucking look that Leonie is giving Matteo right now. I get such badass queer woman vibes from her. Like, I really do. Fucking step on me. I'm not leaving that in. There's even more really interesting comparisons to the OG in this scene that I'm really excited to talk about. I mean, first, it's way less lighthearted. I mean, he's joking right now, but Matteo isn't a very animated person, so he's just given like these little smirks. It's nothing like how Isaac did it. And also just the lighting of this scene too, it's very cold. And they're between two rows of lockers too, which will become more evident later. Yeah, just the way this entire conversation is framed is a lot darker and less fun than the original. Bitch, where? Where is the charming smile? Not anywhere with Sarah, that's for sure. I think one of the biggest things that's changed between this scene and the scene in the original is the fact that Sarah gets to say something. She has way more agency in this. She has way more agency in the season than Emma does. I mentioned before that Sarah gets way more development. She feels more like a fleshed out character. And here, she actually gets to ask questions. She actually gets to speak her mind. And she has these demands. And they're super valid demands. And she gets to say them outright. Whereas Emma, in the original, I didn't realize this until I went back to watch this scene. But she says one word in the entire scene. She calls him a jerk under her breath, and then that's it. That's it. So like I said, Isaac has a similar spiel, you know, he's kind of joking about, I have this guy tied up, what should I do to him, like blah blah blah. And it charms Emma. It works. Like, she laughs and calls him a jerk, but is kind of joking about it, and Isaac jokes along with her. And by the end, she's charmed, and that's it. I think this change forces the audience to see that what Matteo is doing is wrong. And that's so important, and that's a layer of depth that we didn't get in the original. It seemed like in the original, Emma was kind of just a bump in the road for Isaac. We couldn't really empathize with her. There wasn't much to empathize with her about. We didn't really get to see the full effects that Isaac's actions were having on Emma. We didn't get to see the negative impacts of Isaac's decisions. We saw it a little bit, but we mostly saw it when Emma was angry at Isaac and used his sexuality against him. That was the only time we used it, and that made everyone hate Emma, because there was nothing to empathize with her about. So of course we're going to be angry at her for doing that. But with Sarah, right here, she has a voice. She has agency. We're seeing how Matteo is affecting her and how she feels unwanted and unloved and insecure because of what Matteo is doing. And that makes this conversation feel way heavier than in the OG. We're not just charmed by Isaac like Emma is. We have to sit with the negative consequences of it, just like Matteo does. Okay. I mentioned this, I think, in the first episode when Sarah and Matteo are just like in Matteo's room, and Sarah asks if they're together. Matteo says, I don't know. Sarah says, yeah. And then Matteo says, yeah. And that's the basis of their communication. And it happens again here. Sarah tells him what to do. She says, well, if you want to fix this, you could kiss me and tell me that you want to be together. And then he does that. No more, no less. She deserves so much better. She really does. Once again, love Matteo, but... And I do think a lot of that comes down to how this is framed. The fact that I'm siding with Sarah in this moment comes down to the way it's framed. There's so many like close-up shots. It's cold. Like I said before, they're in between two rows of lockers, so they're trapped and confined to this space. Everything about this scene is heavy, and it makes you feel just as trapped as Mateo does in this moment. He can't escape the fact that he's hurting Sarah, and we can't either, and it makes it just really hard to watch and so uncomfortable and really sad, which is an element that is completely missing from the original. And right before he kisses Sarah, he looks so defeated. I've used the word defeated to describe Mateo several times. And it's usually when he's around Sarah. And I think this shows how much it is weighing on him. He feels the weight of his actions here. And so do we. So before they kiss, he sighs, looks to the floor, and clenches his damn jaw, which are definitely all things that you want to see right before someone kisses you. Totally. And I'm going to pause right here when they're actually kissing. This is so close. We don't even see all of their heads. Like, it's just their faces. It feels so trapped and so suffocated, and it's pretty much the same framing and editing of the clip from episode 2, I believe, when Sarah needs like comforting and Mateo goes to comfort her and they're kissing there. It's a very similar framing, just so suffocated and close up. I used the word unsettling for a lot of that clip, and it is definitely unsettling. And his eyes are open again. They're open. I can see them. And then after the kiss, he clenches his jaw a couple more times and says exactly what she wants to hear. And gives like the smallest little smirk. It's not even a smirk. It's like one of those really thin, pressed smiles. That's not what you want to see after someone kisses you. It's just not. If someone looked like that right after they kissed me, I would break up with them right then and there. And he actually does smile a little bit here, which I was surprised to see. We finally have a more zoomed out shot, and we can see that they've been trapped between these two lockers the entire time. And Sarah pushing him up against the lockers there is kind of interesting to me. She feels like she's in control. We know, and Mateo knows, that she's really not. She's really not. Which, once again, just lets us sit with that heaviness, and it lets Mateo sit with that heaviness. And I think it also could symbolize how Mateo is just spiraling out of control. His life is spiraling out of control. With every progressing episode, and with every progressing conversation with Sarah, it gets worse and worse, and he becomes less and less in control of the situation. This transition song actually has a lot of meaning too. It's called Her Life by 2 Feet, and some of the lyrics: every day she sees her life fade away and pass her by. What can she do? Wants to leave her lonely town, wants to go and fuck around. What can she do? Lives in dreams and self-told lies, sees the world through jaded eyes. What can she do? You could probably make an argument that these lyrics fit both Sarah and Mateo at this point, because they're both lying to themselves. Both of their realities are just kind of empty. But even though there's female pronouns, I do think that this song fits Mateo better. Especially the part that says, what can she do? It repeats that multiple times. That perfectly portrays the passivity that he's shown throughout the entire season so far. What can you do? Whatever. His life is just spiraling out of control. What can you do? There is still locker symbolism in druck. I don't think it's as pronounced as it is in the original, and you could probably even go so far to say that it's just a nod to the original. But I do think there is enough there to argue that it symbolizes Mateo being out of control of his life. I think there's another scene that illustrates the symbolism of the locker better, so I'm gonna hold off until then, but just to mention it now, I think it does mean something, and we'll come back to it when there's more evidence for it. Maybe this is the internalized homophobia episode and the Mateo's life is spiraling out of control episode. Because there seems to be a lot of examples of both of them. Yeah. He submits pretty easily to Kiki, Carlos, and Sam. Doesn't really put up that much of a fight. Passivity. There she is again. The fact that Mateo wears a belt is the biggest plot twist in Scum history. They're so awkward still. So after just being steamrolled into hosting the party, he actively goes over to David to kind of try to take some control over his life after having a little bit of it taken away from him. Another example of how he's active with David, but literally no one else in his entire life. And I'm, once again, not a German speaker at all, but to me it seems like Mateo is speaking more clearly here. He's definitely still tripping over his words, but he's enunciating more, I think. Nowhere near an expert on the German language, but from what I can hear, it seems like he's mumbling less. Yeah. I love how David reaches into his locker for like a second, and then he's like, oh shit, I have nothing to get. Yeah, cool. So realistic. A little bit too realistic, maybe. Very accurate portrayal of gay panic. And then right when he turns his back to David, the smile fades.